Looks like it's gonna be a hot one already. Morning, my name's Trey Nelms. I'm a firefighter with Truck Company 3 in Nashville. We're gonna talk a little bit today about peaked roof ventilation. Especially here in the South, a lot of times we have the idea that the only type of ventilation that we need is through positive pressure ventilation using forced air fans. It's very manpower friendly for us, especially with budget cuts and low staffing on our apparatus, but that is not the case. That is only one portion of ventilation that can be used strategically at different times. Peaked roof ventilation is something that is a tactic that can be used to stop a fire. It can be used to pull fire away from fire victims, and it really doesn't cause that much damage, and it's pretty easy to perform. Today we're going to go over different tips and procedures that could make your peaked roof ventilation experience a lot better. We're going to go over what tools you need once you make access to the roof. We're going to go over the type of cuts that you need to make and what order that they need to be made in as well. And then we're also going to cover about getting up here and getting off the roof as quick as you can. As you can see, we just deployed a roof ladder. So it's going to give us two things. Number one, it's going to distribute our weight better across this roof, and it's going to give us a stable working platform for us to work from and to have our tools on. The reason that we're up here performing peak roof ventilation is two things. We've either got a attic fire or a top floor fire. So the fire is right underneath us. So we want to make sure that we have something that's going to carry our weight along with tools and give us something that's stable and sturdy to work from. Next, you'd get some type of hook pole or plaster hook, some kind of device such as this. This one is a shorter version of plaster hook. What I would recommend if you're going to the roof, you would want to take at least a 6-foot hook, because when you're opening up the roof, you want to have enough reach to where you don't have to put your body over the ventilation hole. Plus, you're going to have that extra length for once you go to punch the ceiling out down below, the drywall, the insulation, all that stuff that gets in the way. You want to have enough length to be able to go down and take that stuff out. So you'll come up with your hook and you'll stage it on one of the rungs of the ladders. Next, we're going to talk about the Halligan tool. We'll normally use it for forcible entry, but here we're going to use it to work from the ladder. Once we get this tool up here, we're going to use it, put it into the roof, and it's going to give us a place to put our foot on whichever side we're coming off the ladder. Next, we have our chainsaw, and you see here we have one that is a vent saw that's particularly designed for ventilation, that has a depth gauge and guard that can be adjusted for whatever depth your roof is going to be, or rafters or different things like that. So that's what this is used for. Of course, you can use a normal saw if need be. This is what we're going to use to make the cuts. All right, remember, when we get up there to make our cuts with the saws, we're going to make our cuts and then get down quick. We don't want to stay and hang out up on the roof. We're going to talk now a little bit about making the proper cuts. There are a few things that are dictated by the fire conditions and weather that you need to be aware of first. For this demonstration, we're going to simulate that the wind is blowing against us. It's blowing that way. It's coming from our back. So we want to place our ladder to the left side of the ventilation hole, because once we vent, the heat and smoke is going to go away from us. And once we open up, the decking is going to provide us some protection from that. If it was the other way around, the wind blowing the other direction, of course you'd put your ladder on the right side of the ventilation hole. The whole outline of the way that we're going to make this cut is for us to expose ourselves minimally to the open hole. So by the time we get done to make our last cut, we're going to be back on the ground ladder, which means back to safety. We're here, we can get down quick if we need to. So we're going to start going away from us and then come back, working our way back to the ladder. You see, we've got our tools in place. We've got our Halligan in the roof to give me a footing. We'll start our saw. That's our first cut. As you can see, we worked away from the ladder, going back over the fire. Cut 2 is going to come through, and it's going to be a cross angle cut. It's going to do two things. Number one, it's going to be an inspection hole for us to make sure we're in the right spot. If we do it right, we're in the right spot, we should have a pretty good bit of smoke and fire coming out of that hole. Second thing it's going to do, it's going to give us a place for us to use our hook pole to grab to open this thing up when we louver it. This is the beginning of cut number 2. You see how it goes at an angle here. Notice something else. All of our cuts are always going to overlap each other. So that way we don't have to come back, especially after we make that last cut. And then we have to come back over here, then we'll be putting ourselves in a bad spot. So if you can make sure things overlap from the beginning, that's going to save you some time and effort. You see, with cut number 3, we've gone all the way down. The rule of thumb for residential is a 4x4 hole, and for commercial it's a 6x6. So we don't want a little bitty hole. We want something that's sizable, that's going to get some heat and smoke out. So that's cut number 3. Cut number 4 is going to start down in that corner overlapping. As you see, we're going to work our way back to our ladder. So that'll be cut 4. And now last but certainly not least, we're ready for our 5th cut and final cut. We're going to come here and work our way down, and as you see, we're back on the ground ladder, back at our safe haven, our stable work platform. So this has worked out good for us. Make sure you're in a safe area. The wind's blowing away from us, and you just slide up with your hook, go to our inspection hole, and then louver it up just like that. As you see, the decking and shingles and such help shield you from the heat because the wind is going to take the heat and smoke that way. Once you're done at the fire, if you needed to, just for property conservation purposes, you can just put this louver back down in place and get you some plastic and staples or roofing nails and cover that up. So in summary, let's review real quick. To do an effective peaked roof ventilation operation, you have to have the proper tools like we showed you. You need to make the proper cuts in proper order, and most importantly, you need to get the cuts made and get off the roof, because being right above the fire is a dangerous place to be. Be safe and train you like your life depends on it, because it does.